Asato ma sadagamaya tamaso maham jyoti gamaya Rityormam amritam gamaya Avir Maedhi Rudra Yate Dakshinam Mukha Enamaha Aha Niyam. Lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness into light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourselves, and ever you will protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. So my subject this morning is the philosophy of art. And we're going to be talking about the Vedanta aesthetics. Aesthetics being that branch of philosophy that deals with the nature of art and of reflective judgments about the beautiful and the sublime. And our controlling questions this morning are something like, what is art? What is beauty? And why do we love beautiful things? You may wonder why we're talking about aesthetics. Well, Vedanta is not just a religion. Vedanta is a complete system, a complete comprehensive system of philosophy. And every complete comprehensive system of philosophy has 6 great branches. We could visualize the mansion of philosophy as having 6 rooms. And in each one of those rooms, you're asked a question. The first room of metaphysics, the question is, what is the nature of reality? The second room, which is epistemology, you're asked the question, how do you know? And in the third room, which is logic, you're asked, how do you know that you're thinking straight? And in the fourth room, which is ethics, you're asked the question, what is the good? What is the right thing to do? And in the fifth room, that is of political theory, we're asked the great philosophical question, what is justice? And in the sixth room, which is aesthetics, we're asked the question, what is beauty? And that is our subject this morning. We think about looking at a beautiful sunset, or about looking up in the heavens at night, seeing the moon and the stars, or when we see the grandeur of some natural wonder of the world, we have an appreciation of that natural beauty. And when we consider the fine arts that is, of sculpture and music and painting and literature, we also get a kind of refined enjoyment. That enjoyment is, that is, it gives us some pleasure, but it's not a sensuous pleasure. It's not sense pleasure. It's not intellectual enjoyment, but it is an aesthetic experience. The capacity for making reflective judgments, that is, both moral and aesthetic, is a uniquely human trait. And human beings appreciate beauty. It's a universal shared value. And not only do we appreciate beauty and love beautiful things around us that we see, the beauty of nature, but we are also motivated to create even more beauty in the world. And that's the purpose of art, to rearrange things so that they're more beautiful. We need beauty in our lives. God created beauty for the life of the soul. Beautiful things do not satisfy our hunger, don't give us shelter from the sun and the wind and the rain. And they don't give us warmth at night. In fact, we could say that they're entirely useless for all physical purposes. But beauty is more useful than food, than shelter, and then warmth, and then clothing, because beauty is food for the soul, and the soul is more important than the body. Now, one of the great questions in aesthetics involves the question, or revolves around the question of aesthetic judgments. Do aesthetic judgments have truth value, or are they merely matters of personal preference? Is the world really beautiful? Or is it just our perception of beauty is the result of cultural conditioning? That is the beauty really out there in the world? Or is beauty in the eye of the beholder? Maybe some of you remember the famous episode from The Twilight Zone. Now, The Twilight Zone is a great resource for philosophers. So sometimes we've had opportunity to refer to it in the course of the discussion of Vedanta. In this one episode that I'm thinking of, it takes place in a hospital room. And a woman with a major facial deformity has undergone an experimental operation. And her head is completely wrapped in gauze-like bandages, like a mummy. And the patient and the doctors and the nurses are very tense and nervous and anxious, wondering if the operation was a success. Slowly, the bandages are unwound, and we see the hands of the nurse, we see the feet of the doctors, and we hear the voices, that is the murmuring of the conversation in the room, but no faces are shown. And gradually, the wrap around her head is gradually removed, and the last bandage is removed. Oh, we're suddenly relieved, because we see the face of a very normal and a beautiful woman. But at that same time, at that same instant, the camera, which is zeroed in on the hands and the feet and the face, the camera zooms out, and we see all of the figures in the room, and all of them are horrible-looking, pig-snouted freaks. And they all shocked, and they're all cry out in alarm as the last bandage comes off, because they realize the operation has been a terrible failure. And the patient herself, she's given a mirror, she looks in the mirror, she's shocked, and she begins to cry and to weep. She too has internalized that standard of beauty. And we can contrast this subjectivist model of beauty. We can contrast this subjectivist model with a more objectivist view of beauty and aesthetics. Beauty is a lot like dharma. On other occasions, we've discussed in detail the subject of doing your dharma, and how each one of us, we have our own swadharma, that is our own personal moral imperatives. But in addition, we know that there are universal moral values. Similarly, it is in aesthetics. People have different tastes, but there are also judgments which are universal and common. Every person in the world thinks that butterflies are beautiful. And every person in the world thinks that a colorful sunset or a sparkling diamond is beautiful. And every person in the world thinks, or at least stands in awe, before the sublime vision of the looking up in the sky and the moon and the stars. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. And a beautiful thing gives aesthetic pleasure to every person. The classical theory of art is and holds that every art holon, that is, every work of art, is a unity. God, who is the greatest of all the artists, he did not create a chaos. He created a cosmos. And following God's model, a work of art is something which has a certain structure and design and a certain orderly relation of the parts. And all beautiful things have a family resemblance. They share one or more, not all, but one or more. It's like the universal religion. They share one or more common features. And they're universal standards of what makes something beautiful. There is, for example, maybe something like the balancing, the meeting of the pairs of opposites, the intensity and the variety of the colors, the proportion of the figures that are represented. And for example, if you go to the Louvre Museum, you see the Venus de Milo, most beautiful figure in the world. If you are a man of good taste, then you appreciate the beauty. Somebody like me, I don't appreciate it. Why? Because I have a more vulgar taste. Venus de Milo it's not like a picture of a model on the cover of a magazine. It's all about golden ratios and mathematical proportions and ideal beauty. And you have to have your mind in kind of like a higher state to appreciate it. Those are universal standards, universal values of things in a scene of beauty. There is variety, there is unity, and most important of all, there is unity in variety. There's unity in diversity. We're able to see the one in the many. That's what makes it beautiful. There's an interrelationship of all of the parts that somehow, in a million different ways, form a whole. And the whole is more than the sum of the parts. So, that's our first thesis this morning, that beautiful things have a family resemblance, that we can point to certain common and shared features of things which give us aesthetic pleasure. But no one of these things can capture the essence of the beauty itself. And really our question philosophical question is, what is beauty as a thing in itself? The great English poet John Keats, he wrote a famous poem called the Ode on a Grecian Urn. Urn is like an old-fashioned vase for flowers or whatnot. And at that time of his writing, Egyptian artifacts had just been rediscovered by English archaeologists, and many of them were on display in the British Museum. And the poet, Keats, in his imagination, there's no real Grecian urn. In his imagination, he's addressing the poem as if he were contemplating a real Greek vase. And at the very end of the poem, there's some famous lines, which you know very well. He concludes by saying, "Beauty is truth. Truth is beauty. That is all ye know on earth, and all ye need to know." So, beauty is truth. And that's a puzzling equation. Because usually we don't think of beautiful things as being true or false. And truth appeals to the intellect, beauty appeals maybe to the senses. And so it's puzzling, certainly kind of demands our contemplation. On the other hand, we could say that beauty, in general, when we talk about the beauty of a particular scene or a particular thing, the beauty speaks to the inner order of things. And a beautiful thing, a thing, like the Grecian urn, it has an order, it has a relation of parts that come together to form a whole that's greater than all of the parts. And truth also refers to the inner order of things. When we speak of the truth of something, we're referring to the essence of the thing. And so both truth and beauty are revelations of the inner order of things, which is somehow larger than ourselves. And the Romantic poet Keats, his poem, reiterates an ancient teaching of the Upanishads. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. It's an old aphorism. Truth, goodness, and beauty. Satyam, Shivam, Sundaram. Three transcendentals. Three great fundamental aspects of the ultimate reality, which is Brahman. There is an ultimate reality called Brahman. Brahman is the absolute, the one only without a second. Brahman seen through Maya is Ishvara. Ishvara is the God of Vedanta. Ishvara is the impersonal, personal God. Brahman seen through Maya, that the sum total of all that we see in this world. Ishvara created the world and he became everything, and he entered into everything. In forming a conception of God, we have to reach for the highest generalization. And when we think of God, therefore we think of our highest generalizations of omnipotence, omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, omnibenevolence. And it's very reasonable that we think like that, because one of the great arguments for God, the existence of God, it's called the argument from continuity. That means that everywhere that we look in the world, we can see that everything admits of different degrees of perfection. There are different levels and different gradations of value. And that implies that there must be some standard. If there are gradations, there has to be something that's grading it. There has to be if there's a lower and a higher, it suggests that there is a highest. And we can speak of gradations of power, less and less more. There must be some greatest, highest power. And when we think of things as being fair, or good, or better, it suggests that there's things which are better and better. There must be something which is the best. Similarly, it is in our consideration of beauty. There must be some highest excellence of beauty. In order for us to proceed gradations, we have to have kind of a background that presumes that there's a standard and that there is an ultimate excellence in beauty. And that perfect beauty is what we call God. Now we can ask ourselves the question, why do we love beautiful things? And, we can see that if God is the ideal of perfect truth, goodness, and beauty, these are the three faces of God. And if God is the creator of this world, everything that God created must be good and true and beautiful. And when we see when we see the beauty of nature, certainly it recalls any beautiful scene in nature, will recall to us the glory of God. When we see a colorful sunset, when we look up into the night sky, or we see some natural wonder like the Grand Canyon, then it's natural that we feel uplifted in our mind and in our spirit. And when we see the Sistine Chapel For example, when we listen to Beethoven's choral symphony, we naturally feel inspired. These are spiritual experiences because they remind us of godly things. And but it's not. So why do we love things which are beautiful? Well, they remind us of God. They recall to us the glories of the Creator of this world. But if we were to ask that same question from the standpoint of the Advaita Vedanta philosophy, the Advaitins would say that this ideal of perfect beauty, it's not really about God or about the divine creator of this world. It really is about the self. That is about what in Sanskrit is called the Atman. That means your own true self. It's about whenever we see some beautiful thing, something which has balance, something which has harmony, something which has unity in diversity, it gives us a sense of happiness and joy. Why? Because it reminds us of our true self. Whenever we hear people don't like noise. We don't like noise. What we like is music. Music is better. Music is more like, it's not a chaos. Music is like a family of notes. It's like a harmony. And the harmony of music, it reminds us, why do we love music? Because it reminds us of our inner harmony. It reminds us of our true nature. It reminds us of ourself. It reminds us of our soul. And so it is with all things beautiful. The reason why we love things. We love. Love means a feeling of oneness. Everything that you love is a reflection of yourself. Because the only thing that you can really love is yourself. That is your Atman, your true self. Why? Because that's the only thing that you are identical with. That's the only thing that enables you to have true love, is identity. And so beauty recalls to us the truth about ourselves. And the goodness about ourselves. Of course, beautiful things also have a content. We're not discussing that this morning, but the content also. That's the truth. Reminds us of our true self. In maybe the most famous of all the works of art in the history is maybe in the history of the visual arts, maybe the most famous is the painting of the Mona Lisa. And for hundreds of years, there was a mystery about, among art historians, about how that painting came about and who was Mona Lisa. Well, today, that mystery has been solved. Not by art historians, but by computer graphics experts. Now, we have for a long time, we've had a self-portrait of Leonardo himself. And in the portrait, he's facing to the right. But if you take that painting and you reverse the Leonardo self-portrait so that it's facing to the left, and it's scaled down a little bit and then juxtaposed over the painting of the Mona Lisa, we come to the immediate conclusion that Leonardo used himself as the model for the painting. And Leonardo da Vinci, he loved puzzles. And so there are many other clues in the painting. For example, if we look at the knotted pattern that resembles basket work on the bodice of the dress of the Mona Lisa, we can see that, well, the Italian word for basket is Da Vinci. So like that we get kind of confused, or got a kind of references to hidden references to the origin of the painting. And so that famous Mona Lisa smile, it's a smile that has tantalized art historians for so many centuries, is the smile of Leonardo himself. And so we can see it speaks to our thesis this morning, that true beauty recalls to us the truths of our own true self, and that everywhere that we see beauty, we're just seeing ourselves, that is our Atman, our true self, in reflection. So, this is something about the philosophy of aesthetics. And our thesis has been that there is real beauty in the world. It's not all subjective. It's not all culturally constructed. It's not all in your head. It's not all projected by your own imagination. It's real. And it's true, it takes some work to appreciate beauty. And it takes work. It takes a lot of inner work to discriminate between what we find agreeable and what is truly beautiful or sublime. And but we can train our minds and hearts in appreciating aesthetic values is a necessary part of personal growth and of self-actualization and of self-realization. And natural beauty and art can remind us of godly things, and more importantly, those things can directly recall to us our true nature. And this is why art and beauty are important in our lives. Om Dyo Shanti Antariksha Shanti Prithvi Shanti Apo Shanti O Shadaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishwe Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Saravam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Same Shantiredhi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, peace is in heaven, peace is on the earth, peace is in the sky and in the waters. The herbs and plants and trees are full of peace. The gods are peaceful. May this eternal, universal peace enter our souls and beings. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all.